Hi, I'm Hank Davis from freepodcasttools.com. I am happy to have Mel joining me. Mel, this time we're going to be tackling artwork and branding. When I approach people about artwork, I will always want them to have in the back of their mind, what do you want conveyed when they first see your artwork? You have to have that clear as day, because you don't want somebody particularly coming to your artwork thinking it's about something and then getting there and going, oh, this is totally different than what I wanted. So that's one thing that I really tell people to keep in mind. Two, does your artwork look good small? So a lot of people have like just little tiny writing on here like this. And then from way far away, you can't read what that says. When the podcast app is about this big, the artwork is, and you're just looking at like, what does that say? I don't know what that says. It says sandwich? I don't know. But I always tell people to think about that. And for the love that's all that's good. If you are not like a readily known face, don't put your face on there. If you're not somebody that I would walk by on the street and go, oh my gosh, it's Dave Ramsey or it's some celebrity. But there's like regular business dude, he's standing on the cover like, I'm like, that means nothing to me.
Hello, I'm Mike Bryan.
Yeah. There's probably some real dude. There's probably some real dude out there.
Listening right now, he goes, I was going to put my name and face there.
He was.
Mike Bryan, don't do it unless we know you.
Right. So just make sure that if you're going to put your face and your personal branding on there, you've got to be somebody that people recognize. Okay, you can always go back and do that later.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
The branding, I'm assuming you think it should be domain specific. Like there's a channel. There's a channel they first started. They were just going to do cinemas, so so their logo was kind of like a C and an S. But they didn't realize they could do cinema, music, TV. But when you go to their podcast, it says it's a CS, which would make you think. So their channel has nothing to do with all of their material, if that makes sense. So, I mean, should you think about the future, or should you just think about just the first podcast like they did?
I would have a huge discussion with them. But first, I would say you always got to be 5-10 steps ahead. So when I got into podcasting, I had an inclination that I was going to do more shows. So I just wanted an overarching name that technically can mean whatever I want it to mean.
Yes.
TPE Network. It can just mean whatever. I mean, if you know what we do, then guess what? You know what we do. But otherwise, each individual podcast is going to stand on its own.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
There's a lot of detail when it comes to artwork. You have to make sure that you're following specs. So currently, as of June 2021, your artwork has to be square and minimum size of 1400 by 1400 pixels. And right now, the max that you should go is 3000 by 3000 pixels. It should be a JPG or a PNG. The color space needs to be RGB to be compliant. And most people have settled on 72 DPI. That's dots per inch. And here's the kicker. File size must be less than 512 kilobytes. So I've seen a ton of people do this gorgeous artwork, and it's like 2 megs. And they're like, can't get into a certain podcast directory. And they're like, what's the problem? And that certain podcast directory will not tell you. So you'll just be sitting there swinging a miss, unless you find somebody that understands that your artwork's got to be squished down.
Now,
a little bit.
where would we be able to find the specs needed for the artwork? I mean, would that be the same as the like would a podcast directory tell us that, or we just would need to know that?
Apple Podcasts has a help page. I have
Nice.
the
Okay.
specs on freepodcasttools.com under the How to Podcast section under section 3. I
Okay.
have the specs listed out there as well.
Okay.
Also, another thing that people forget about is you cannot use any offensive words on the artwork. So you want to steer clear from some of the stuff that are topics that people will be very upset with and have your show removed for.
Okay. So no, this is why episode 1 of Phantom Menace sucks.
No, you'll be fine with that because a lot of people will agree with you.
No, I cut the last words off.
Oh, I get you. Also, what's your slogan or description? So when we start thinking about branding,
Right.
so for TPE Network, comic book fans of the 70s and 80s who now watch Marvel and Star Wars today. I try to niche down like that, but you're going to get more people than whatever you niche down to. You're going to get people that don't fit that, but that's fine. You still want to have a target demographic of people you're trying to reach.
So in the business world, this is kind of like the mission statement.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Who are you serving? And it's got to be real detailed.
Makes perfect sense.
Also, don't forget that you're going to be sharing these images or a version of these images when you get this created. See if you can also get made something that's going to look good as a YouTube thumbnail or a Facebook post image. And they have specific guidelines for all of these social networks. A lot of people forget about that, but you're going to want one it'll look like it's oblong, it's kind of like a rectangle more so than the squared one that you need for podcasting.
Okay. Compatible images.
Yep. So two birds, one stone, same designer, have them do it. For this, if you're really pinching pennies, you can go to sites like Fiverr and stuff, but you got to be really careful because you get what you pay for in life. And if you're paying $20-25 for artwork, you're probably going to get logos that look like they are $20-25. I'm not saying you can get lucky sometimes. So keep that in mind. You can get fortunate on that, but there are really creative people out there that you can hire for a couple $100 to $300, and they will hit home runs for you. Any other thoughts or questions on the artwork and branding?
No, it makes perfect sense. It's I mean, it's kind of one of the things you would do if you would come up with a business, and whether people like it or not, a podcast is a business. And
Yes.
so yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Excellent. Well, stay tuned for part 4, which is we're going to cover the website or an alternative. Very important stuff. That's coming up next.